Hello everyone, welcome back to 999. I'm the Pixel Doctor. Continue. It was 5 o'clock. I had only an hour left. Don't have a lot of time left. Let's go. Slowly, one by one, they followed Junpei out of the bedroom. Actually, before we get started, I was hoping you could do something for me. Junpei stepped in front of the door and turned around. A7 and Lotus, could you please place your palms on the red? Huh? Why? When you get to the shower room, why don't we just... No, we're not going inside. Once you've authenticated, step away from the door. Why? Please, just do it. Or perhaps you don't want to know who killed Snake and Clover. Junpei's implications were clear, that Seven understood perfectly. Ugh, fine. What about you, Ace, Lotus? Very well, sure. Quickly they pressed their palms onto the red. Once they finished, they stepped away from the door as Junpei had instructed. 3 asterisks shone from the red display panel. Junpei approached it and held his bracelet over the scanner. He made quite sure he didn't place his palm on it, and instead brought his bracelet near it. The 4th asterisk appeared, just as Junpei had expected. It was impossible to authenticate. It was possible to authenticate without placing one's palm on the red, so long as the bracelet was brought near it. Junpei pulled the lever down. Door 3 opened like a hungry mouth. 9 long seconds passed. Then the door shut, unfed. Junpei walked slowly back to the others who were waiting some distance from the door, talking to one another. I had the same theory, Junpei, but I didn't know because I couldn't test it. Santa and June had joined them as well. It looked as though they hadn't found a chance to break the conversation yet. As Junpei approached, they turned to look at him curiously. Whoops, hit too soon. Before long, the other 3 did as well. Clearly, they were all expecting some answers. Thanks. I appreciate your cooperation. Clearly, they had hoped for something more forthcoming, he continued. By the way, Ace, would you mind if I ask you something? What is it? Do you know who I am? What kind of question? Just answer it, please. Who am I? You're Junpei, of course. Who else would you be? Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. Actually, I'm Santa. What? Ace's voice was so full of surprise, but it was tinged with confusion and fear. Everyone else looked nearly as surprised. Santa looked especially shocked to discover he was actually someone else. If he spoke, however, the trap would be exposed. Junpei quickly continued. The clothes I'm wearing I borrowed from Junpei, and the clothes he's wearing are mine. We had a little swap. It's ridiculous! Impossible! So you're saying I'm not Santa? Of course you aren't. Why? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? If you're Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. 1783 was 5. 1 plus 9 would be 10, which is root would be 1. The 4 of us just opened door 3. Can't possibly be Santa. Your bracelet number isn't 3. It's 5, right? Only then was it too late did Ace realize his mistake. He set his jaw and glared at Junpei. You're exactly right. The bracelet number is 5. As he spoke, Junpei lifted his wrist up to show everyone his bright red 5 on his wrist. Sorry, Ace, I tricked you. Of course, I'm not really Santa. I'm Junpei. You could possibly think it was. It's obvious I'm not. To think I was ridiculous. But I guess you couldn't see just how obvious it was. I asked you before, didn't I? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? And you answered, if you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. Most people wouldn't say something like that. As their justification for why I'm not Santa, I mean. The first thing they would come to say someone else's mind wouldn't be their bracelet number. The only one thing would be one sentence. You don't have his face. Ace. You have this, am I right? Junpei's voice was quiet and calm. He knew the truth, so did Ace. He could hear a sudden buzz of conversation from the others. What? Here Lotus began to explain it to them. Ace glanced at them and turned back towards Junpei and sighed. Very well, I confess. I have this. I cannot differentiate human faces. Is this what this was about? You want to mock me for my disorder? No, not at all. I'm not making fun of you at all. fact, I feel kind of bad for you. No, the reason I brought this up is that there's an excellent chance the person who killed Snake had this. Ace's face tightened, his eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Junpei leaned casually against the iron piping from one of the beds. I'll just come right up. I think it was you, Ace. You killed him. Junpei was suddenly very aware of the 5 pairs of eyes on him. He had their undivided attention now. The room grew very, very quiet. Junpei took a deep breath. That's ridiculous. What possible evidence do you... I have 3 pieces of evidence. First, think back a few hours ago. We had us argue over the 3 doors here in the big hospital room. There was no way all 7 people could go through them. Lotus suggested that we sacrifice one of us. Lotus looked away awkwardly. Junpei glanced at her and continued. Then you, Ace, said, I'll stay here. Why would you say something like that? Pretty simple, really. You didn't want us to see the dead body in the shower room. You see, if Ace stayed behind, there were only two doors the rest of us could go through. Doors 7 and 8. There's no way we could go through door 3 in the shower room. You knew that, didn't you, Ace? That's why you volunteered to stay behind. Come on now, I think that's going a bit far. I can understand if you're jealous of my bravery, but please don't devalue my actions. I only wanted to save the rest of you. Surely you can understand my altruism. Altruism, huh? They stared off in the darkness at something very interesting and lazily began to dig persistent bit of wax out of his ear. You already knew, didn't you? You knew that whichever door we took eventually would end up back in the big hospital room. What on earth are you saying? Of course I didn't know that. How could I have? Really? Yes, yes. Bleeding was not something they heard from Ace. Junpei pulled the piece of wax from his ear, glanced at it, flicked it off into the darkness. Ah, well, that's cool. I still got 2 more pieces of evidence that say you're the killer. Second is that, as I said earlier, you have this. That means to imply that a person can't distinguish 2 faces must be a bad person. They call that prejudice. No, I'm not that stupid. Then why? Well, before I explain, I suppose there's something I should tell you. Corpse in the shower room. It's not Snake's. What? What? Ace's face went pale. The others looked confused as well if the body wasn't Snake's. I didn't put it together right away, but there's something Clover told me. She said that Snake's left arm was a prosthetic. He lost his real arm in an accident. But the body we saw in the shower room, let's call him Guy X. Guy X's left arm was definitely flesh and blood. In other words, Guy X couldn't possibly have been Snake. Oh god. No, that's impossible. Ace started muttering deliriously to himself, shaking his head back and forth. Junpei was long past caring. Let's say hypothetically that the killer didn't have this disease. If that were the case, he would immediately realize that Guy X wasn't Snake. Even if the clothes were in the same, even if the clothes were the same as Snake's, Jesus, their faces would be completely different. It would have been obvious they were different people, and yet they killed him. Still, why? Why would they kill a stranger who'd only just shown up? On the other hand, if the killer did have this, it makes sense. He thought Guy X was Snake and killed him. Wait just a moment. Let's say you're right and I mistook Guy X for Snake. Even if I did, it would have no motivation to kill him. Why would I want to kill Snake? I can think of at least 2 motives. 1, Snake knew about your past. If he ever revealed what he knew, he would have been real bad for you. You really didn't want that to happen. To make sure Snake's mouth stayed shut, you killed him. 2, Snake had a grudge against you. You knew that, or at least you could have easily assumed he did. Without exposing your identity, he was a threat to you. You never knew when you might be attacked. You never let your guard down. Every moment was a moment he might try something. You didn't want that kind of danger hanging over you, so you... Hey, hold on a minute. The first time since the beginning of the Junpei's explanation, someone besides Ace spoke. What's the past that Ace wouldn't want us to know? Why did Snake have a grudge against him? Look at this. He handed Santa a small piece of paper. Santa squinted at the paper and began to read. The number game was played once before, 9 years ago. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. It was planned by the 4 following people. Creative Pharmaceutical CEO, Gentoro Hinoga. What? Is this? Slowly Santa looked up from the paper. His eyes met Junpei's. It's a message from Zero. It was in the safe in the first-class cabin. But suddenly... Give me a break! Ace's Ace's face was red and shaking, and his voice was full of fury tinged with desperation. That paper's a lie. Someone's trying to frame me. Me? You said me, right? Junpei's eyes narrowed, and the trap began to close. Ace inhaled sharply, his eyes flickered off of Junpei to anything else. Wouldn't that mean that you're admitting you're Hongo, CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical? Or am I mistaken? It was as though a switch had been flipped. The color drained from Ace's face, and he realized what he'd done. His eyes went wide. Very well, I admit that much. I'm certainly the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical, Gento Hinogu. What if I am? I don't know anything about the Nunnery game that supposedly took place 9 years ago. You know, that scrap people's bullshit. Someone's trying to set me up, you see. First of all, Ace stammered as he tried desperately to work himself to a more tenable position. But you're claiming I did all this by myself. Think that over, alright? How could I have killed Snake all by myself? Not Snake. It was Guy X. I don't care who it was. Said the killer put this other man into door 3, right? Yeah, maybe. Then I couldn't have possibly done that alone. I couldn't have opened door 3 with only myself and Guy X. Nope, you could have. What? His face was tight, his teeth were clenched. Junpei fixed... Actually, no. To close. Actually, Ace. I took something from you. Remember when you were injected with that anesthetic and fell asleep in the big hospital room? Yeah, back then, I took this. He put his hand into his pocket. No, you couldn't have. His right hand had moved. Junpei smiled. Got you, Ace. You're right. There tells me that all I need to know. You want to tell me what you're so worried about? What's in your pocket? It's the number 9 bracelet, isn't it? Ace, Guy X, Ninth Man's bracelet. It's all you need to open the door. Door 3. Oh, sorry. I was doing the math in my head for the root number. I was like, and I forgot about the actual 1 plus 2 part. All you needed was the 9 bracelet on pocket chest, or chest pocket. Ace lowered his hand from where he had stopped halfway to his pocket. He looked down at the floor, his face hidden from Junpei. All he could see was the corner of Ace's mouth twitching like a dying fish. If you want to play Isn't It, that's fine by me. Go ahead and tell me I don't have the bracelet if that's what you want to do. But if you could take off your coat and hand it to me, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll have to take it from you by force. Right, 7? Yeah. It'd be my pleasure. 7 cracked his knuckles with sound like a gunfire. Ha 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 ha. He's so evil. And I somewhat felt like this was coming a little bit, but I don't think he's Zero. He roared with laughter. He threw his arms wide, held his head back, and laughed, filling the room with sound that scarcely belonged there. Then it stopped. His arms came down, his head dropped, to look straight ahead at Junpei. His face was flat and cold, devoid of any emotion. Well done, Junpei. As you correctly deduced, I have the number 9 bracelet. I retrieved it while we were searching for the missing hardware for the red. I left the room. I was supposed to search and headed for the first class cabin on B deck. His voice showed no emotion, no sense of remorse or interest. He was almost bored, as though he were reciting an especially dull corporate letter. The purpose was to obtain the number 9 bracelet. 9 is a potent ally in the Nunnery game. Adding 9 to any set of numbers won't alter the digital root. As you see, 9 is a very useful number here. With it, I can go anywhere with anyone. So I made for the first class cabin to attain it. They successfully acquired the number 9 bracelet. He also found an unexpected bonus, the knife the Ninth Man had been holding. He slipped both of them into his... He slipped both of them into his chest pocket and left as quickly as he came. So, did you stab Clover? I guess so. Which gives even further evidence that Zero is Clover. She's not dead, I bet. He walked down the stairs and headed back to where it was supposed to be, and then that's where he met Guy X and mistook him for Snake. Snake was on his way to the large hospital room, but had not noticed Ace behind him. Ace made sure it stayed that way. He followed the man wearing Snake's clothes to door 3. The man stopped, he walked behind him quietly and called out, Snake. The man turned to look at Ace. He said nothing. No words came out of his half-open mouth. He seemed dazed somehow, almost like a man half asleep. Perhaps he had been drugged? Didn't matter at Ace. Ace was certain the man was Snake. He knew Snake had been part of the nunnery game 9 years before. Snake hadn't recognized Ace immediately. But he was blind, that much made sense. Why had Snake said anything to him? Surely he hadn't forgotten what happened to the nunnery game, but not once did he attempt to confront Ace. Perhaps his lack of sight had prevented him from recognizing Ace. Or perhaps Snake had conspired with Zero to deceive Ace. In either event, he was a threat, and it was better to deal with him sooner rather than later. Ace's mind was made up. He moved. He held the number 9 bracelet over the red, moved his own bracelet in front of the red, and finally grabbed Snake's arm and shoved his hand against the scanner panel. The door opened. Ace threw the man through it. 9 seconds later, the door shut. 81 seconds passed. And said the door passed away. You could just say exploded, because that's what happened to him. After that, I returned to my post as though nothing had happened. After conducting my own search, I returned to the large hospital room when the 1 a.m. bell rang. His eyes were cold and his cheeks were hollow and pallid? I don't know. When he spoke, only his lips and tongue moved. The rest of his face was eerily still. Junpei glared at Ace. He took a deep breath and thought about the next question he had to ask. He didn't want to. He knew what the answers would be. He just didn't want to hear it. Junpei swallowed and spoke. Ace, did you kill Clover? Yes. Why? Why'd you kill her? She was Snake's sister. It was possible that... Oh, whoops. Additionally, he had to go through door 1. It seemed likely that you might have found it. Found what? Why don't you go through door 1 yourself? Perhaps it's hidden somewhere. 7 Lotus interrupted. Yeah, but Lotus and I went through door 1 too. We didn't see anything suspicious. As I thought as much after I heard your report from the central stairs. Thought the two of you could find it. Perhaps Clover was different. Perhaps she found it. I was therefore desperate to find her. And last I did, the first-class cabin. I spoke very calmly. Did you see it? See what? Don't act as if you don't understand. You were in the captain's quarters, weren't you? Huh? What are you talking about? Very well. By the way, what are you doing here, Clover? What? Nothing. There's blood on your shoes. Looks fresh. Did you go take a look at the 9th man's corpse? I see. Your sign suggests that you noticed you saw something, didn't you? So his bracelet was gone. Clover ran. She made for an exit, but Ace stood in her way. You aren't going anywhere. He caught her by the collar. As she pressed, he threw her on the floor hard. She slipped back up and darted past him into the hallway. Ace followed at a run. He was faster. That's how I killed Clover. His face hadn't changed. If he felt guilt or remorse for any one of those, or anything anyone might feel after taking up life of another human being, it didn't show. Son of a bitch. So his whole body trembled with rage, his voice rumbled with hate. Said his eyes were bloodthirsty, and Lotus and June's face were destroyed by anger and hatred. Ace looked at them and smiled. It was a cold, cruel thing to do, with no humor in it. He shook his head and sighed. I admit it. I've lost. I've lost completely and utterly. But don't misunderstand, Junpei. I didn't lose to you. I lost to Zero, not you. Rather disgusted myself for falling into such a simple trap. It's a trap. It was a trap, make no mistake. I was trapped and manipulated by Zero. The man I killed in the shower room? If he wasn't Snake, then I have no idea who he was. But he was wearing Snake's clothes, and that was no coincidence. He had also been injected with something that reduced his cognition and prevented him from identifying himself or resisting me. We can't forget the components that were removed from the red before we arrived. I have no doubt that Zero planned all of this. Zero made sure I would kill that man. It follows, of course, that Zero knew everything I would do. That I would try to take the number 9 bracelet. That I would try to kill Snake. Everything. Suddenly, Junpei remembered the paper he found on the safe. He remembered the last words Zero had written on it. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. the innocent souls might be saved, I now state the truth. 0. He remembered other words he'd heard from Clover. I think 0 is one of us. One by one, Junpei looked at the 5 people standing in front of him. Ace. Santa. June. 7. Lotus. 0 is one of us. No, Junpei paused. There was one more person. Snake. It was clear now that the man who died in the shower was not Snake. That meant Snake was almost certainly still alive. Perhaps Snake was 0. Snake had made Guy X close that he would appear to be dead. Where was Snake now? Perhaps he was somewhere laughing at them. If he was 0, surely he had lied about many other things. Was he watching them? Well, I believe I finished my confession. Why don't we get moving? It sounded as if he just finished doing nothing more exciting than describing the weather. For Santa, it was the last straw. What the hell is this shit? We aren't going anywhere with you, you son of a bitch. You're gonna leave your ass here to rot. Why? Because I killed Clover? That's ridiculous. Are you upset that I killed that little... Jesus Christ. She was nothing to you. A stranger you only met a few hours ago. Am I wrong? You bastard. 7 roared and lifted a fist that would likely shatter Ace's jaw. But someone else's was faster. Hard to guess? Yeah, Lotus. She stepped toward Ace, raised a fist to her own. Please give me it. And drove it straight into his nose. Huh? Got some fire, don't you? I confess, I rather like a tough woman. He sniffled and wiped a small trickle of blood from his nose and raised it with an eyebrow. Well, maybe you'd like another one then. Before that, let me give you one of my own. Huh? Lotus scarcely had time to blink. Ace snaked his arm around her and pulled Lotus's back up against his. In the same motion, he reached for her coat pocket. Oh, that son of a bitch grabbed the gun. See? I told you it was a bad idea. There's a gun, the revolver. Almost lazily, he tilted it at the point of Lotus's head. If any of you so much as blink, I won't hesitate to pull this trigger. I already killed 2. No, 3 people. Don't think I'm not ready to make it 4. 3 people? What do you mean? Very well. I take this opportunity to eliminate you. The person who killed the 9th man was me. Although I was supposed to be more accurate, I encouraged him to get himself killed. While we were examining the main staircase, he came to me and told me his name. I recognized it at once, so I gave him a little push. Just a little white lie. It seems that the setting for the deads were altered. Now it only requires a single person to deactivate the detonator in the bracelet. Investigate what's beyond the 5. We'll meet later. Okay, have a good one, guys. I'm going off ahead now. Well then. Shit. Why isn't it stopping? God damn it. You lied. Open the door, please. I'm begging you. Help me. Please get me out of here. Get me out of here. No. Oh my god, there's no time left. Listen, I was lied to. He lied to me. He put me in here. It was him. He killed me. It was him. That didn't tell us shit. You could have said Ace. You could have said the big man or something. I have 4 reasons for killing him. 1, as I said before, the nunnery of the 9th bracelet is utmost importance. That allowed him to keep such a useful tool, he or it would have become a threat to me. As such, I decided he should be eliminated early on. 2, while the number 9 bracelet, if I could manage to obtain it, and be able to manipulate the game as I saw fit. I'd be unable to acquire the bracelet unless the owner was dead. 3, even setting aside his number, he would have been nothing but trouble for me. He was aware of my past. He knew what happened here 9 years ago. It was important that I eliminate him before I was able to disseminate the information. 4. Lastly, I wish to conduct a simple test. A test to see if the Nunner game was serious or a poor attempt at a joke. I needed to be quite sure. As such, I encouraged him to act against the rules so that I might observe the outcome. They glared at him. I don't get your 3rd motive. What the hell happened 9 years ago? Didn't I say? The Nunner game was played. I planned it out and I conducted its execution. Why? What on earth was it supposed to do? I don't really think I have any obligation to tell you that. Ace smirked. You have a gun. You could just shoot everyone. Ace smirked. He was trying to provoke them, and it was working. Though Ace had paid very little attention to Lotus after catching her, the gun had never wavered from her temple. She looked quite pale, and when she spoke, her voice shook. Hey, what's with the gun? Where did he get this? Why don't you tell her, Santa? Santa ground his teeth and glared at Ace. On the side of door 6, we found the gun in the coffin in the cargo room, right? Lester must have grabbed it when we weren't looking. Indeed, I did. It's a pretty serious mistake, you know. Just saying that you intended to leave it behind. Ace laughed. A short, derisive snort gave Junpei a sickeningly pitying look. Well, there isn't much time left. I'll be off then. Where are you going? Do I really need to explain? I assumed it would be obvious. I have the number 9 bracelet. Now I have Lotus. Wait, there's a door with the 9. With the... Wait, there's a door with the 9 in the room that looked like a dumb church? That's where you're going, isn't it? And how do you know that? Sam told me about it while we were looking for Clover. I see. Well, you are correct, that is my destination, but now I must say goodbye. To all of you. And please, don't forget my warning. Move and I'll pull the trigger. I don't need her alive to open the door, you know. As he spoke, Ace began backing towards the door, practically dragging Lotus behind him. Poor Lotus. She didn't deserve this. Junpei, Santa, June, and Seven stood frozen. Ace had the face of a man gone mad. Jesus. They had no doubt he would pull the trigger. Ace had reached the exit. He forced Lotus to open it, then turned and addressed them once more. Goodbye. He stepped through the door. It fell shut. In the blink of an eye, they were gone. As soon as Ace and Lotus were gone, Junpei and the others leapt for the door, in pursuit of Ace. As Junpei laid his hands on the doorknob, there was a noise behind him. He looked over his shoulder. June was kneeling on the floor, breathing heavily. Hey, what happened? Are you alright? Santa ran to June and wrapped his arm around her before she could collapse all the way. Jesus, you're burning up. Your fever's back. Are you okay? June's fever had returned again for no apparent reason. Her eyes were watery, her eyelids drooped, her breath became dry, shallow gasp. I'm okay. Really, I'm fine. You should be worrying about Lotus. She was breathing hard now. She could barely summon the strength to talk. Junpei was torn. He couldn't leave June alone in the state she was in. But every moment they waited, Ace was farther away from Lotus's life in his hands. What was Junpei supposed to do? June's eyes drifted to Junpei's. She managed to muster a weak smile. Junpei, don't worry about me. I just need a little rest. I'll be fine. Don't you? Remember? I just needed a little rest. A little bit last time. So please save Lotus. Think about what Ace has already done, Junpei. When he's got what he needs from Lotus, you really think he's gonna let her just walk away? God damn it. You guys go on ahead. As soon as Junpei starts feeling better, we'll follow you. Go! Oh no, Santa. Junpei looked at June. She nodded once. She couldn't manage much more. But it was all confirmation Junpei needed. His resolve was set. Alright, come on, Seven, we're going after Ace. Hell yeah. I don't fully trust June. I don't trust no one. I trust Santa the most. Santa, you take good care of June. I'm trusting you. Santa nodded. Junpei turned before he had a chance to change his mind and started running towards the door. You could hear Seven's heavy footsteps behind him. Let's go. Seven and Junpei exploded into the hallway, their feet pounding on the metal floor as they ran. Pat, 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 pat. Pat, 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 pat. Junpei and Seven had finally arrived at the church, exhausted and out of breath. As their lungs struggled to catch their breath, their eyes frantically scanned the room. No sign of Ace or Lotus. I think they already went through. He reached up to wipe a palmful of sweat from the ground. Maybe. Even as he spoke, Junpei was already on his way to the larger of the 9 doors. He looked at the red. It's blade red vacant. He spun around and headed towards the smaller door. If I were telling if Ace and Lotus had moved to another room. Engaged. It's occupied. That means Ace and Lotus went through here. Yeah, it seems like it. Even Ace stepped away from the door. They retreated to the center of the room and began to talk. What do we do now? Yeah, what should we do? Well, the big door is still vacant, but two of us can't do anything with it. Yeah. First of all, our digital is not 9. Just then, they pondered what to do next. There was a noise. It was like someone was hitting a thick wooden panel. Gunpei looked up, surprised. Evan followed suit, his eyes jumping around the room, looking for the source of the sound. It wasn't long before they found the altar, or precisely what was on it. Coffin.